We just read an interesting article talking about your experience with Sunny and how you feel like you kind of like recommitted and you're back fully into it. And there was a period of time where you were kind of growing to maybe resent it. Is that too strong of a word? Or was there really like a, kind of you fell out of love with it for a period of time there?
Yeah, well, it wasn't that I fell out of love with the show. Yeah, it's a little weird. I mean, it's what I was resenting was not the show. It was that I felt tethered to it in a way that was preventing me from exploring other things that I wanted to explore. As an actor, as a writer, as a producer. I'm just not one of those people. What I discovered is that I'm not one of those people that has just boundless and endless amounts of energy. I can only dedicate so much brain power and energy, and I can only dedicate so much before I'm drained and I'm done. And I tried to do other things while doing Sunny at the same time, and it was just, I found it extremely exhausting. And so it kind of got to the point where I was like, well, now that means I can only do Sunny. And after so many years and kind of feeling like I said everything I wanted to say on this show, I just felt tapped out. And it wasn't a good feeling. It was, I was feeling that way mostly in season 11. And then I did season 12 and I felt like, I was like, I think this is going to be my last season. So I actually had a lot of fun with season 12 because I was like, again, I'm going to go out swinging. I'm going to try to go out on top here. And I'm going to throw everything at this last season of mine. And then, but I took basically the last 2 years off of the writer's room. I was doing rewrites with the guys for seasons 13 and 14, but I wasn't there breaking stories and writing original scripts and stuff like that. So taking those 2 years off has been extremely refreshing. And it's also honestly given me a chance to reappreciate the show and, re-fall in love with the show and, get a little time away from those fucking guys.
Was that a discussion you had with them? Was there like a hard conversation to have at one point? Like, guys, I'm not feeling it anymore.
It wasn't a hard conversation because I'm able to have those kinds of conversations with those guys. And so I think one of the reasons why the show has worked as long as it has, because we can have those conversations with each other. Right. And they were incredibly supportive. They didn't want me to go, but they totally understood. And, and I said, the last thing I don't want to like ruin the show. But if this ends the show, then it ends it. I can't keep forcing myself. I was like, I can't keep forcing myself to come in and work on something that I'm starting to get mad because it's getting in the way of me following other dreams. And they were like, we totally get it. We're going to keep going. We want to try doing a season without you. And, I was like, okay, cool. And, when they got to the end or near the end of writing season 13, which was my first season kind of away from the show, or actually, I think somewhere near halfway through the writing process, they were like, we're having a lot of trouble figuring out how to write every single story without you in it. Would you be willing to come back and just act in a few? And I was, or at that point, I'd already had enough time away from the show where I was like, oh, act on the show. That's the fun part.
Yeah, you can just show up and do that, right? That's like,
you show up and act. I was like, yeah. I was like, 100%. Yeah, totally. So that's why I ended up, acting in the 6 that I was in, and I couldn't help myself. I kind of went in and did rewrites on just those episodes. I really had nothing to do with the 4 episodes that I'm not in, like as an actor, producer, or writer.
Honestly. Very Dennis Reynolds-esque,
that must be nice to get that like reappreciation though, because you step away and you're like, oh, you know what, I got it pretty fucking good.
It's kind of like a relationship, It's like you go on a break and you're like, wait a minute, babe, I do love you. Let's get back together.
Yeah, sometimes you got to go through a trial separation, but. Yeah, I mean, I think I look at it almost more as like I've always looked at our situation. We've always felt like more like a band to me than a TV show, because we write, because we're in the studio, or we're in the practice space and we're writing songs together, and then we're playing them, and then we're we spend a lot of time with each other, you know, and it's like, okay, we're going to put out another album. It's what it feels like every year. You know, and for me, I was just like, I got to go off and do a side project. You know what I mean? I got to do my solo album, or I got to do, you know, or I just want to be part of a different band for a little while and just, you know, do that. And then, but it was always in my mind. I was like, I mean, if they're going to keep going, maybe I'll come back at some point, you know? I mean, I never closed the door completely.
Because you guys did downplay it a lot. I remember our first interview was, I think, season 1 AP Bio, and it was, you had been in the news and you reiterated it with us. We're like, Sonny's not going anywhere, but it seems like you were like, if it's going to go, it's going to go.
Yeah.
You coy motherfuckers. You liars. You're all just liars in Hollywood.
I think I just didn't want to, I didn't want to commit myself, you know, in the press to, you know, I didn't want to make promises that I couldn't keep. And, you know, I wanted to allow myself the opportunity to truly walk away, if that's what I ultimately decided to do. So it wasn't really it wasn't like my intention, you know, I did want to, but I also did want to honor, you know, that we wrote toward that at the end of season 12. I wanted to honor the stories that we wrote and say, like, this is the story that we wrote and we're sticking to it. You know, I didn't want to just bail on that. It felt like, even though, you know, we usually hit the reset button, this felt to me like it was something where I was like, no, we need to like explore this. Like the guy left the bar. He said, I'm leaving. I want to go be a dad. And,
there was definitely some finality to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought I thought just in my mind, I thought like, well, if they're going to keep going, then, you know, hopefully this will give them something to write to, you know, that will maybe shake things up in a way that'll make it interesting to them as writers. Is like, you know, sort of like I was kind of pitching them on the idea that like, okay, now that this guy's gone, what are we, you know, and doing episodes that are where you're trying to figure it out.
Like
okay,
new challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought that would be a good thing. But, you know, I think if any one of us, you know, were to really leave the show, I do think it would be tough to keep going. Cause
that was the argument I made when there was, you know, some sort of stepping away where I was like, Sonny's a tough one because there are so many shows that have the lead. And Sonny has 5 leads.
Yeah.
Everyone plays such a humongously important role. It's tough to even lose one leg on that varsity.
Yeah, but it's also I think that cuts both ways, because it's like, I think that's why it could survive in the way that it did, because it wasn't, you know, those guys can stand alone, but there is something about it's not going to be the same without everybody.
Yeah, it just, you know, I think it might have been, I think in some ways it might have been particularly hard with my character, because when there's usually a straight man in any given episode or any given scene. There's the person who's sort of the voice of reason,
right,
you know, trying to rein everybody in.
Yeah, you need that. God damn it, you idiots! Like, there's nobody to do that.
Yeah. And that does shift. You know, it's not always my character, but over the course of the, you know, 12 years that we've done the show, I would say that more often than not, that responsibility had fallen on my shoulders. So I think they found themselves also in a situation where they were like, who's going to be the straight man? Nobody wants to be the straight man. Nobody
could be, really.
Yeah. So I think that presented a very specific challenge to the group dynamic when my character went away. I mean, that would be my guess. I haven't talked to them specifically about that, but that would be the challenge for me if I were writing the show without my character in it, is being like, who's going to play the straight man role most of the time? Who's going to be the one who's irritated with everyone's idiotic behavior?